The Leftovers is an emotionally gripping and deeply thought-provoking series that explores loss, grief, and human connection. Set in the aftermath of a mysterious global event known as the Sudden Departure, where 2% of the world's population simply vanishes without explanation, the show delves into how the remaining population copes with their trauma and searches for meaning in a world that's been reminded of life's fragility. The show mainly does this through its main characters who each struggle with their own personal demons from this event, and this allows them to explore various existential questions about pain, faith, and guilt in a world where your loved ones can disappear in an instant. The performances in the show feel so raw, and the entire cast did a wonderful job with the material. The Reverend Matt Jameson, played by Christopher Eccleston, I believe it is, was a stand-up performance in my opinion, and I love following his scenes and watching his character unfold and deepen as the show goes on. The first season of the show really gripped me with the story, and I loved being introduced to the various characters and groups in this new world, and I felt that this was the strongest season of the show. The second season was also great, but I felt it had some pacing issues in the first half, and the last season ends the show on a strong, poignant note, with many of the characters surprising me with how they turned out, and while I did feel like some of the characters should have gotten more time to shine and develop, I still feel the show did an overall good job, and I highly recommend you go and watch it. Alright, now I want to go into some of my spoiler thoughts on this season, so I'll just give you a spoiler warning right now. Season 1 was the strongest in my opinion because you felt a general sense of progression throughout the season, especially with the conflict between the guilty remnant and the townsfolk, and how it all exploded into a fiery confrontation in the last episode. I liked where most of the characters end up in the story, although I was not too much of a fan of Tommy's storyline, as I felt it was the least interesting one to follow since most of the characters around him were not that interesting, such as Christine and Wayne had his best scenes in my opinion with Kevin and they're in that bathroom scene. I was not expecting them to move to Texas for the season, and while I did like having the change of environment, I felt that the location overstayed its welcome. And I don't really like a lot of the newer characters that they introduced, like John, as I felt his story got a little cartoony with his more violent actions. I also felt like Tommy's struggles were not fleshed out enough, and they could have used more time to develop his story in particular, going through his interactions with Meg Abbott, as I felt the conflicts between them were mostly brushed off by the end of it. And I was a little disappointed in how the guilty remnant ended up in this season, at least by the end of the show. I felt that Season 3 did a good job in concluding most of the characters' stories, but yet again Tommy gets brushed off, which I was not really a fan of. I liked how the relationship between Nora and Kevin developed, and while I understand why they did not want to show the other side world since they wanted to make it more ambiguous whether Nora went there or not, I kinda wish we got to see what it was like in that world, but besides that, I liked how they managed to work through their issues and get back together, ending the show on a more hopeful note. Alright guys, that should be all for this video. If you guys have your own thoughts on The Leftovers, please put that down in the comments below, and like and subscribe if you haven't already, as that would really help the channel grow and expand. Anyways, thank you guys, and bye.